Afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to the 2021 Ohio River Foundation annual meeting. Welcome guests and board members. I see we have a couple of board members attending and some longstanding WRF members and maybe some names I don't recognize, but welcome everybody and look forward to presenting to you what we accomplished in 2021 as well as what we also have accomplished so far in 2022 and even some plans for 2023. Joining me today is Bethany Miller, Development and Membership Coordinator for the Foundation, and Jessica Teggy, who is Restoration Programs Manager, as well as a lead educator for our education programs. The agenda for this presentation will follow a standard format, the overview, the intro, program updates, finance and operations, events, and looking ahead. For those of you who are not familiar with the organization, Ohio River Foundation has been in existence for more than 20 years. And we've been working diligently to protect and improve water quality and ecology of the Ohio River and its entire watershed. Even though we are based in Cincinnati, as some of you know, our activities reach far beyond the greater Cincinnati area. And more specifically, here is our mission. Again, for those who are not familiar with us, some of you may see in that first sentence, 14 state watershed. That number has grown over the years. It was actually at one point it was only 7, and then it was 11, and now it is recognized as a 14 state watershed, as our understanding of what watersheds do and how they exist and function has expanded over the years and decades. And again, to protect the river is to protect the land, the water, the air, the entire watershed. So our focus is not relegated to just the Ohio River corridor or the river itself, or even rivers proper themselves, but instead it's to the land and the air, because it all ends up in the water and eventually into the Ohio River. As I mentioned, we've been around for more than 20 years. It would take more than 1 hour just to dedicate to all the things that we've accomplished over the years. But here's a running tally of some of the things that we've accomplished over the last 2 decades. So more than 53,000 students have been educated in both our River Explorer and our Mussels in the Classroom programs. We've removed 5 barriers. That would be things like low head dams and low water crossings. And we've installed bridges in some of those instances. And we've removed upwards of 400,000 invasive plants. And that would be from national forests, from public lands, such as public parks in the greater Cincinnati area, as well as we've planted more than 15,600 trees. That would be anything from live stakes to young trees. Back in 2011, in one of the Cincinnati reserves, forests, we planted 500 trees during a summer program with some students. So we've been very active in that category as well. Our team, as some of you have witnessed over the last decade, has changed. We've gone through a number of different employees, part-time, but some people have stayed with us quite a long time, meaning before I get to the full-time staff, the part-time and seasonal staff, some of these names, people have been with us more than 10 years. And it's been really exciting to have these people involved in our activities and programs, and we're really excited about the core group of educators and restoration people that we have working for the organization. Last year also was very exciting, and you'll see a slide towards the end about it, but we were very excited to welcome Bethany Miller on as a full-time employee, as well as move Jessica Teggy from a part-time to a full-time status. And then, of course, last but not least, is our board of trustees that we have engaged with the organization that provide leadership and advisory words counsel to us. So we're very excited about how the organization has grown and changed, but is still very important in the region, and our mission is definitely a focus of all employees and board members for the organization. Now we're going to get into the programs of the organization. Just bear with us. The program that we're using is a little bit slow. And so, one Mississippi, two Mississippi, we'll get there. And so the program that we're going to begin with is the education program. As some of you are familiar, our two core education programs are River Explorer and the Muscles in the Classroom programs. Starting out with the River Explorer program, which began in 2005 in its current incarnation, has really been it's just been an exciting program for us. Staff really loves delivering it, and the kids really enjoy getting their hands on freshwater mussels, on fish, on macroinvertebrates. It really is an exciting program for them, and we really enjoy introducing students, especially those that may never have been in or near a river, let alone exposed to this type of learning, this type of experience. So it really is a exciting and important program for us, for the students, for the teachers, and for increasing their STEM education incrementally, but still it improves their performance in the classroom, as we've heard back from all the teachers who have their students participate. Last year, as most of us know, COVID still was an issue for schools. Field trips were canceled for all of 2020, and then again for spring of 2021. So the results you see in front of you, which are much lower than our typical participation, is just for the fall of last year. And so while we were disappointed that we weren't able to provide River Explorer program during the entire year, we were excited, and the teachers were, let's put it this way, the phone was ringing off the hook as soon as they were given the green light to have their students jump back in with field trips. And so we're very happy that we were able to welcome back students and teachers to the program in both Cincinnati and Columbus. Moving on, you'll see a collage of photos, and we'll just linger there for a moment, of students participating in our River Explorer program. And then we will move on to our Muscles in the Classroom program. Launched in 2017, this has been almost lightning in a bottle. We're getting calls around the country, other entities that want to also replicate and introduce their own Muscles in the Classroom program to their region. It's a very difficult program to administer and start, so we're giving them the advice that, the best advice that we can, but working with live animals, as you can imagine, is a challenge, but our staff have figured out how to administer the program, and these freshwater mussels really, as you can see from this particular photo, it's just a unique experience for them. It's one thing when you see a fish swimming and they point at the fish, but to actually be able to hold it in the classroom, 2 weeks it's there, and for the low cost of $100, even the underserved communities, Title I schools, are finding a $100 lift much easier than several $100s for busing, for students participating, the administrative issues with coordinating field trip off-site. So this program really is growing nicely, and we look forward to expanding it over the coming years. The results from 2021, the Mike program, again, was somewhat impacted indirectly by COVID. It was more the case that during one season, fall of last year, we had some issues with the host site where we housed the mussels. They ran down their equipment and needed to go through an overhaul. And so in the meantime, we were building, and we now have constructed a mussel hotel at an undisclosed location for our mussels. But this definitely limited our ability to deliver the program in fall of last year. So instead, these numbers reflect the Mike program from spring of 2021. And again, numbers were good. We're excited about the participation in Columbus, Cincinnati, and Lexington, but we're looking forward to improving the participation. And for example, this calendar year, towards the end of the slides, I'll be bringing you up to date as to the status of the Mike program. And here are a couple, here's a montage of photos of the Mike program. And now we will move on to the restoration program. I promise it's coming up. Here it comes. There it is. All right, as we advance, there are three particular categories that we are most focused on for our restoration program. However, and that be invasive species removal, barrier removals, and tree planting. However, there are other areas that we also are starting to get involved in and looking at opportunities, and that would be some wetland restoration and wetland creation opportunities. So we are not precluding ourselves from getting involved and looking at other opportunities in the watershed, but these right now are three of our areas of concentration. The particular elements of these categories, I'm going to talk about barrier removals, and then I'll hand it off to Jessica to talk about the other two. But the barrier removal program from 2021 was more of a grant writing and project acquisition, scoping projects. And so for right now, for 2022, from efforts from 2021, we're involved in removing a large low water crossing in Pendleton County, Kentucky, and having it replaced with a bridge. And that is a project that is underway in the permitting process right now. And we expect by sometime late fall, early winter of this year, we'll be completing that project. We also have a project that is currently in the grant approval process for a full dam removal. It is a low head dam located in, I think Louisville will be considered northern Kentucky or northwestern Kentucky. And so outside of Louisville, that particular project, which is occurring on a small tributary to, I believe it's the Salt River. So more information will be forthcoming in the next couple of months as to that project when and when that's going to take place, but expect that that will be a dam removal taking place in 2023. There are a couple of other dam removal projects that we've been approached about, and we are discussing that with the owners of the dams. So I expect to have more good news about dam removal projects at our next annual meeting. Jessica, I'm now going to hand it over to you to talk about our invasive species removal projects, some tree planting, and anything else you want to chat about.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica. We're going to start with Kingswood Park. So Kingswood Park, what a success story. So Kingswood Park is located in Deerfield Township, and it's a retired golf course turned park with a really cute backstory. So a few years back, it was originally set to be sold and turned into an office park until a small group of community members turned into a larger group of community members, and they were able to save it. So Deerfield Township wanted to preserve this area, called us in to bring it back to its native glory, and it's now thriving and an active native space that's been so much fun to watch flourish. So looking at some of these numbers on the screen here, 32,000 plants removed. That's a pretty big number, especially considering the majority of those plants are actually trees. It's a big job. We take out a lot of invasive plants and a lot of golf balls as well. But what we're doing is making room for the natives to reclaim their space and provide habitat for habitat and food for our native pollinators. And I'll tell you what, just about every single time Ohio River Foundation restoration staff is out there cutting down trees, pulling out honeysuckle, we find a native species that we hadn't found at Kingswood Park before. It never gets old. So also working with a park that has a strong community of volunteers is so special. We've met so many awesome people out there, 75 volunteers last year. That's amazing. We work closely with Deerfield Park or Deerfield Township to make that happen. They help us get the word out, whether that's to local businesses, to schools, to churches. And with these types of projects, you know, you're building a diverse native habitat, that's the goal, but you're also building a community for sure. And next we can talk about Summit Park, I believe. Yes, so Summit Park, a very well-loved park in Blue Ash. Highly recommend taking a walk out there. There's a little bit of everything there at Summit Park. So ORF manages their native prairie, their wetland areas, as well as some of their woodland trails. And for that site, last year we took out about 40,000, a little over 40,000 invasive plants. And Summit Park is slightly different than the other areas that we work in, because a lot of that time, a lot of like staff time is spent working alongside Summit Park staff. And we do this, we organize this so to kind of create an educational aspect. So we invite them out to join us, and they get to learn about really what we're doing, the problematic invasive species that are there, how they remove them, when they're going to come up, when they go to seed, why they're negatively affecting our pollinators, and how they negatively affect our water quality as well. And kind of connect those dots on how something can be planted. They can plant something, you know, in a garden bed that looks nice, ornamental, and then a few years later, we're seeing it aggressively spread out and beyond. So that's a great bridging the gap type of project. So last year we had 4 community volunteer events, totaling 92 hours of volunteer participation. We love to see it. We got some trees in the ground with a volunteer event. Great year at Summit. And next we have Alms Park. And this is a continued partnership between Ohio River Foundation and the Alms Park Allies, as well as Cincinnati Parks. And in terms of scale, this is a much smaller project than the previous 2. However, measuring success in acres doesn't do this park justice. So Alms Park has a lot of invasive vines and tall trees. So that means our work moves upward, but nonetheless, 17 amazing volunteers pledged 50 hours of work for us. They came out to donate their time for the greater good, and the park's wooded areas are truly improving by leaps and bounds every year. So we're excited to continue that. Switching gears a little bit to our Coors Seltzer project. So this was a live staking project. Live staking, you can see all of our live stakes there. Not all are pictured, But live staking is a planting technique that uses dormant tree cutting. So those are not just sticks, they are living dormant trees. And to harvest them, small branches, approximately 2 feet long, are cut from mature dormant trees growing near a waterway. And then once those are harvested, the stakes are kept dormant until it's time to be planted. And we do this, we plant live stakes where banks are eroding. So since soil and sediment is the #1 pollutant in the Ohio River watershed, it's pretty important work, I like to think. So once planted, these live stakes come out of dormancy, which is like early spring, and they send out shoots, but most importantly, they send out their roots. And the roots are what's really gonna hold on to that stream bank, keep the soil and sediment where it's supposed to be instead of entering the waterway. In total, ORF, with a ton of amazing volunteers, planted over 10,000 native trees, which spanned 6 miles of riverbank, and that covered parts of the Little Miami River, the Great Miami, and O'Banion Creek in Loveland. I saw a question pop up. So what species did we plant? Lots of different ones. We looked at some of the sites and decided what would work best. So we have several willows, and then we also planted red osier dogwoods and some sycamores where the sites allowed for some more substantial trees. And I believe I'm going to hand it off to Rich to talk about our advocacy work.
Thanks, Jessica. Before I start, I'm just going to take a second to answer John Seymour's question about how do we measure success of the students during our education programming. We give the teachers pre-trip and post-trip quizzes, and the teachers administer those quizzes to the students and record their scores, and that is reported to us, so we're able to, in some measure, determine whether the kids have learned anything after a River Explorer field trip or a Mike program experience. All right. Advocacy. For those of you who know, that's where actually we first received funding from the organization. For the organization from the Gund Foundation out of Cleveland. And that was back in 2000 how we started. So currently our focus, which has been consistent over the last couple of years, is concerning these particular topics. There are other topics that we also are focused on that are not listed here, in part because we work mostly on federal policy, not local or state. As far as local is concerned, there's very little local law that governs pollution and protection of resources. It's really at the state and federal level. So it's with our partners that we work to encourage and support strong policies and laws, regulations to protect and improve water quality and the ecology in the watershed. These three in particular, though, have become more of areas of focus and issues of focus for us, just because they have greater impacts for the watershed as things stand right now, as well as other entities that may be engaged on other issues aren't paying as much attention as we think needs to be focused on these areas. And so that's why we are focused on them. The nutrient pollution, which you'll hear more about in the coming months in the lead up to the anniversary of the 50th anniversary of the Clean Water Act. The nutrient pollution is really a big problem still in the watershed, mostly agricultural from stormwater runoff, a 9-point source. The Ohio River contributes 30% of the flow to the Mississippi River, and a high concentration of nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, are entering the Mississippi River, and it is a problem, especially as you get down towards the Gulf of Mexico, and you have what some people know to be the dead zone, where you have such high nutrient problems that there are algal blooms and lack of oxygen, and just nothing can live in those particular areas. Once it's a cycle of algal bloom growth, death, and then oxygen is depleted from the water column. And this, we're talking about several square miles. I think it's 20 or 30. Bill Hayes, you might know what the actual number is, but in any case, that is a region-wide problem. The PFAS, which I'm going to just rely on the acronym for now, but there's PFAS, PFOAs, but they're known collectively as the forever chemicals. There's some litigation that has been ongoing over the last couple of years, and now some regulations that are being talked about from the federal level. There was a water quality standard that was recently put out from US EPA concerning this. And if you want to know more about the information concerning the regulations, you can look at US EPA as well as Orsanco. I think somebody just put something in the chat, and you can look at that information. But we plan on, again, over the coming months with our partners, some regional organizations, highlighting PFAS and these forever chemicals as a big problem in the watershed. Last but not least, the petrochemical build out. Some organizations that are very local to where this is happening, and we've been supporting their efforts to try and thwart the development and build out of the petrochemical institutions and plants, similar to what was done down in, or exists down in Louisiana, that's known as Cancer Alley down there. But the reasons for having these along the Ohio River really are spurious. And so we continue to take a look at reasons that this needs to not go forward. There are currently some big plans to build out the infrastructure. However, funding, as normal things happen with large developments, the funding actually is drying up, and some of the parties are actually starting to back out of further build out of this particular industry. Finance and operations. By the way, if people have more questions, well, we do have Q&A at the end. After that, if people want to give me a call and speak more about this offline, I'd be happy to do that. Finance and operations of the organization for 2021, we had an excellent year. And actually, it is even better for 2022. As the phrase goes, hitting the cover off the ball. But we're really excited about how we exited last year. Our balance sheet was more than $125,000. The balance sheet exiting this year is going to be easily north of $200,000. So we really are having a banner year. The number of companies that are coming to support us as sponsors of the organization through the coffee festival or outright, or finding us online. The Core Seltzer is a good example. The most that Jessica talked about, a new company that I'll talk about, that project in a little while, is another opportunity that companies are just finding us, increasing us because of the work that we do and are doing. And so we're really excited about how the organization is continuing to grow, more employees that we can bring online, and the greater impact we will then have both in the education, the restoration, and the advocacy areas.
And Rich, if I could interrupt for a second, I'll apologize to Bill. When I downloaded this into PowerPoint, apparently your photo didn't download. So we'll share that later. Sorry about that, Bill.
Not a problem.
He's a very handsome guy. All right. So yes, this past year was really exciting to be able to bring Jessica on full-time and introduce Bethany to the organization. And really, I won't say it's the worst time for her to have joined the organization, but she started at ORF 3 weeks before the coffee festival. So some of you can imagine the communications requirements for that particular event, but she hit the ground running and really has been a delight to have her join Jessica and the rest of the ORF team. And we're really excited about what we've accomplished so far this year and what we're looking forward to also for the coming years. And Bill's stewardship, taking over for longtime board president Rob Shimp, has been a welcome change to the organization, as it's always nice to have new people engaged with the organization. Rob was a wonderful board member, and we look forward to the stewardship and the coming years from and with Bill. Thanks, Bill. Major funders for the organization. This is a brief list of the funding sources for the organization. Not listed are some of the government grantors, both local, state, and federal sources that we get funding from for some of our restoration projects. But here is a list of some of the entities that provide us major funding for our work. And for sponsors of our events, feel free to peruse our Cincinnati Coffee Festival website, as well as you'll hear in a minute, the Film Festival website, a webpage, and you can find more information about our event sponsors, which is where we are headed now. The last year, however, was just because of COVID, just our coffee festival. We took off, as some of you know, 2020 because of COVID, but we were so happy and so glad to be able to have it back last year under a bit more constrained requirements as far as entry was concerned. We needed to have, I believe, proof of vaccination. So as I understand it, we turned away many people at the door who didn't read the fine print or didn't read the information posted, but that was the rule that had been imposed and was in place by Music Hall and Cincinnati Arts Association, which is the site where we have the event. But we were successful in being practically full as far as vendors are concerned, and $50,000 was raised from the event, and several thousand people did attend the event. So it was really a nice welcome home because we had not been there for 2 years. We were at a different site in 2019, and it was really a nice return to the event. So we're really excited about 2022 and this year, and more about that when we get to the looking ahead slide. Which is the next slide. So for 2022, first with the education programs. Well, actually, no, you know what? I'm going to turn it back to Bethany to talk about the film festival, which is an exciting new project that we brought back from 2019, I believe is the last time we had it. So Bethany, why don't you take over with a brief discussion, information about our Wild and Scenic Film Festival that we had this past June.
Sure. Thanks, Rich. So as Rich mentioned, we decided to hold another Wild and Scenic Film Festival this year. We had that back in early June, and we had a great turnout. We held the event at the Woodward Theater. We had more than 85 people come. This year, we also had an option where people could attend virtually. So if they weren't comfortable attending an in-person event yet, their schedule didn't allow, or maybe they wanted to host an event in their classroom, or just they wanted to watch it in their PJs on the couch, it gave them that option. So we had about 40 plus people buy virtual tickets. And we think that's an area where we can really grow this festival opportunity going forward. No matter what venue we host at, we'll always have extra capacity with allowing people to view these films virtually. The Wild and Scenic Film Festival allows people to view fantastic environmental short films from around the world that they might not necessarily be exposed to in another way. So it's a really great opportunity to educate people about various issues, get them excited with some of the adventure films that profile some really neat places around the world, and just kind of get them motivated too. So going forward, we hope to grow that event. We really liked working with the Woodward Theater, and we think there are options to continue the film festival there and maybe host some other events there in the future. But it's a great opportunity to, of course, increase fundraising, awareness about ORF and various environmental issues, encourage people to get involved, educate them on how to get involved with ORF and other entities in their own communities. We can gain new members, and it's a membership driver for us. So we're really looking forward to building on this experience in the future. Rich talked a little bit about, kind of switching gears here, Rich talked a little bit about the Coffee Festival this past year. The 2022 Coffee Festival will be October 22nd and 23rd. So just right around the corner, a few months away. We're very excited. It will again be at Music Hall, and tickets are now on sale. You could get them on the Coffee Festival website or on our website. And of course, we'll have a lot of other announcements going out around that. And if you, as an individual, or you know of any corporate sponsors that might be interested in boosting their profile within the community through the Coffee Festival, please do let us know. We're still accepting sponsorships. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Rich to talk about a few more of the initiatives that we've been working on this year and some things that we're looking ahead to in 2023.
Sure. And before I get to that, I'm just going to answer Ian Budd's question about our relationship and how we fit in with Orsanco. So for those of you who don't know, Orsanco is the acronym for Ohio River, I believe it's Ohio River Sanitation Commission. And what they are, they were formed in 1948, a pact by 7 states, one of whom is not in the watershed, but in any case, they were formed by a federal compact back when there was not an EPA and not a Clean Water Act, and the objective was to try and improve water quality for the Ohio River. And so anyway, they are a quasi-federal agency. It's just the best way to explain it. However, they are made up of commissioners that are selected by governors as well as US EPA. And over the years, they had developed standards for water quality. And those standards were used to guide industry and polluters as to what type of pollution was allowed and how to control it and minimize it and all that kind of thing. And I'm being very general, there's more specific, but again, we're limited on time. As far as how Ohio River Foundation interacts with them and how we can, work together, if you want to call it that, the foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit. So as far as our interest is concerned, we are concerned with the water quality for protection of human beings and public water sources and for wildlife. So it's the comprehensive view as far as water quality is concerned. However, for Orsanco, over the years, where they have commissioners that represent industry or are employed by industry but are selected by the governors, it has been a very, at times, difficult situation that they have been put in as far as decisions regarding water quality standards. So over the years, us partnering with other nonprofits have been butting heads with Orsanco as far as water quality standards are concerned. And it's been a situation where, especially in the last couple of years, that Orsanco has decided to step back from water quality standard setting. Instead, they're leaving that to the states and the federal government. So now Orsanco pretty much is just a water quality monitoring and research entity, and providing some information to water users and water providers, especially on an emergency basis when their research stations and monitoring devices detect a polluting event. So we still are engaged with Orsanco in conversations when necessary. We are part of what is known as a nonprofit watershed subcommittee, where we provide some advice to Orsanco and some of its technical committees. But from a practical standpoint, we provide a different service, if you want to qualify it that way, than Orsanco, because they are more limited in scope as to what they can do, whereas our ability to speak out on behalf of the public is not constrained. So I hope that answered your question. All right, zipping into 2022 for our education program, and then I'll hand it over to Jessica after I make a mention of restoration. Education program is back in full stride. The River Explorer program had a very nice spring turnout. Spring is always a little bit lower than the fall just because of water levels and the rains that we get. And a lot of teachers that previously had engaged in spring trips have moved it actually to the fall. So we're looking forward to a very nice fall season. But the education program is back in stride, with the Mike program having its largest participation ever in its short 5-year history. More than 1,800 students have participated this first half of year in the Mike program, as we like to call it. So we're pretty excited about where we've gotten to, and back in with the teachers and communications, and funding is increasing for those programs, and new funders are contacting us. So we're pretty excited about the direction that the education program is headed, and we picked up where we left off pre-COVID, and we're even ahead of plan in that respect with the Mike program. Lastly, I did mention the Lowhead dams and things that are in the queue for 2022 and 2023. So like I said, we'll be looking forward to updating people over the coming months, and of course at the next annual meeting, which may be earlier next year, as to where we are on those particular projects. And now I'm going to hand it back to Jessica to talk about some recent developments regarding life staking. Jessica?
Yeah, so in general, in restoration, we have a lot of exciting stuff in the works. So to name a few, we're working on some tree plantings within designated Cincinnati heat islands. We're excited to continue partnering with other local organizations so we can get work done where it is needed, including in some of our most marginalized communities. We will continue fighting that good fight and keeping our green spaces native through invasive removal. I invite you to join us on one of our habitat restoration days. We have several opportunities, including one this Sunday, throughout the rest of the year. They're all posted on our calendar website, and find one that's near you. You'll likely be removing invasive species that you may have hiding in your own backyard. We also have some pollinator prairie installation and management projects in the works as well. We've been working with Blue Ash Golf Course this year to keep their Monarchs in the Rough installation happy and buzzing. We also have some exciting, really exciting projects coming up. Another very large life staking project, this time taking place on the beautiful Twin Creek. And we're excited to announce those projects and their funders soon. So please stay tuned. And of course, if there is anyone on the call today that represents a business or an agency that is interested in partnering with us on any kind of habitat creation project, whether that's invasive removal, pollinator gardens, tree plantings, please contact me. I'd love to chat. My email is jteggy, Tegge at ohioriverfdn.org. I can also put it in the chat.
Thanks, Jessica. And just for people's information, where is Twin Creek? What tributary?
Yeah, so that's going to be located near Lewisburg and Germantown area. So a little bit more north than what we've worked in the past, but we're excited. It's a beautiful, beautiful trib. Recommend anyone take a paddle if they're looking for a trip.
Yeah, it's a tributary to the Great Miami River. So Great Miami River being another major tributary to the Ohio River, as we continue to look at what we can do on some of these major tributaries to the Ohio River and work in those particular subwatersheds. Thanks, Jessica. Okay, Bethany, back to you.
I think the only other thing was just the coffee festival, and I mentioned that a little earlier. But I'll go ahead and just speak to the Connect with Us slide. If you want to learn more about the Ohio River Foundations, our programs, and some of our individual projects, how to get involved, please visit us at ohioriverfdn.org, and you can contact us at orf@ohioriverfdn.org or any one of us individually, and we can put our emails in the chat, and our mailing address is also included. Please remember to also connect with us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and on LinkedIn. So please connect with us in that way. And then with that, we can go ahead and open things up to questions. We'll address anything else that was asked in chat, and any other questions that you might have, feel free to ask those in chat, and then we can unmute you. So I'll go ahead and hand things over to Rich.
So I see one question in the chat. And so, Mike, I think I know of what you speak. And the particular organizations are project driven as far as what they have funding for and what they're able to work on regarding Ohio River or Ohio River watershed issues are concerned. And so with one of them, for example, National Wildlife Federation is spearheading a restoration program conversation. And so we are part of a group that is monitoring those particular conversations, and we're part of those conversations. That being said, based upon, as you know, our experience with Ohio River watershed restoration programs, back in 2000, we were involved in trying to get federal funding for such a program, which we actually don't need to go back to revisit. as to what was the circumstances around that. But we are still in touch with the particular organizations that are involved in the current discussion as well as that past discussion. And we feel that it is important to especially highlight some of the pollution issues, the PFAS, the nutrients, some of the other things this year, especially with the Clean Water Act anniversary. And so that's how we feel that we can, to use your word, differentiate ourselves from them. And we are still viewed, at least by those larger entities, as being the organization that is the mouthpiece, so to speak, for the watershed on watershed issues. But we still have a very strong relationship with our different coalition members. And I speak of that as far as the different organizations that are involved are concerned on these particular issues. As far as local is concerned, drilling down to Cincinnati issues or Kentucky issues that are very specific to greater Cincinnati. I think that if they are newcomers and they are trying to carve out a larger watershed voice for themselves, I think that may be something they should discuss with us, because that could be more difficult and more confusing for the parties that already are engaged on these particular issues. But I'm not concerned. I'm not hearing anything from our coalition partners. You're the first person really to raise an issue. But our regional and national partners are still very much engaged with us, and they have not brought up this issue as being a matter of concern for us. Supreme Court switching from coal to natural gas and coal-fired plants will slow the transition to renewables along the Ohio River. I don't know about the transition to renewables. I just don't have enough color on that particular topic regarding the rulings are concerned. I do know from a particular gentleman who heads up an entity that is building some of these large-scale solar plants along the river, that they're still have more business they didn't know what to do with. So I can't speak to the Supreme Court or the transition is concerned, but I do see that there still is a lot of building that's going on and interest in these solar farms in the watershed, not just along the river. Any other questions? Got 2 minutes left. Are you doing anything in connection to the breach of the bank of the Little Miami River as it enters the Ohio River? Not currently, but if you'll permit me, Ian, 1 or 2 people on the call know that I'm going paddling. In about 2 hours, I'm going to be on the Little Miami River, finishing up a multi-day trip. And this is going to be a 2-day trip, and I will be paddling down to the Ohio River and actually finishing up at Schmidt Boat Ramp on Friday. And so I will take a look at that area again. I know that we did try to do some life staking, I think, Jessica, down in that particular area where the confluence is, but I don't know if that's what you're talking about. I think there's some property that's owned by Cardinal Land Trust. But do you have any particular comment on that, Jessica, from your experience?
Yeah, we did some planting right there on that sandbar. The goal was to extend the willow habitat that's already there right at the mouth there. So that has survived. I don't know how much that's going to do in terms of stopping that erosion there.
Ian, was that the question that you had, or is there something more there?
Tom, if you would like to, if you have any questions or anything, I'm welcome to chat.
Tom, FYI, we actually have a pending project, life staking project on the Whitewater River that is currently in the final discussion phase. So follow us and we'll update our readership as that becomes more concrete, as the ink dries, as they say. But we do have an approved grant to do some life staking on the Whitewater River.
Thank you.
Any other last final questions? It's 1:01. Thanks, John, for your comment. Bethany, I'm going to hand it back to you. And everyone, thank you, by the way, for attending, and look forward to communicating with you during the year. Bethany?
All right. Thanks again, everyone, for taking some time out of your day to connect with us and get up to speed on our work over 2021 and into this year, and a little preview of what we're looking towards for the second half of this year and into 2023. This meeting will be available. Recording will be available. We'll send it out as soon as it's uploaded to our website. So you can feel free to go back and review anything or share with anyone who you think might be interested. Again, in the meantime, just feel free to connect with us at our website, through our emails. I listed Rich's email, Jessica's email again, and my email if you have additional questions or comments, and connect with us on social. And we hope to see you all again soon. And thanks again, and have a great rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.